All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound. This is your weekend edition of the Pocket Change Market Report. Hope everyone's doing well, and that the discoveries and cherry picks are treating you well. Well, just came back from an incredibly busy, very packed Sacramento coin show, and I would say the coin market is back on. You know, they're just everybody is back into the hobby as we normally would expect. We're kind of entering what they call the coin show season. It's kind of like a 8 to 12 week little range of the year where most of the biggest shows are coming out. We have the Colorado Springs A&A Money Show. That's going to be a huge one. We got the Whitman Baltimore Show. Central States is just around the corner. So we have back-to-back bangers of shows, some of the biggest ones all throughout the year, and they fall under this like 2 to 3 month little pocket here. But also part of that, we got brand new 2024 coinage that's hitting circulation. Time to get your game on. Go ahead and find some of those new discoveries out there for that first double to die on that Lincoln Cent, or maybe some sort of error with a massive strike through or some sort of die break. I don't know what's out there, but now is the time to strike while the iron's hot. Whether you're searching for these coins or you're just taking the coins that you're finding out there and flipping them for a decent amount of money, there's really no wrong way to approach this hobby. And you could treat it even as a little bit of a side hustle, a little bit of a business venture, as you will. And the market is incredibly strong right now. All right, with a lot of uncertainty going on, during an election year and all that stuff, and precious metals kind of like teetotaling around. There is a lot of uncertainty. But what I can say for certain is that the numismatics market is incredibly powerful right now. We're seeing some just amazing realized prices. We have a number of coins here that certainly hit that mark, and hit the mark they did. So I look forward to sharing some of these with you, along with some of the big Lincoln Cent errors and varieties that people are looking at, and they're selling for strong money. I mean, great time to be alive in numismatics. So a few little ground rules. We don't talk about graded coins. You guys know the spiel there. Keep the money in your pocket. And the photos that we're going to look at here today are 100% original to the seller's listings. We didn't juice or doctor anything in here to make them look any better. We might have cropped and blown up a photo just so you could see it a little bit closer. But aside from that, those are the two main things that I wanted to stress to each and every single one of you. All right, so your boy Blue, yeah, we're coming into a very busy month of March. I got a couple coin shows, to attend. I just wrapped one up here this past weekend for the Sacramento show. I'm going to be in Colorado Springs in 2 weeks, among a few other things. So the content, the videos, they're going to be a little bit less in the month of March. Hopefully not. We'll see. But also selling on whatnot, is also going to dwindle a little bit too. Like this coming week, I only have a Tuesday show. I'm not going to be available next Friday for a show. So I wanted to let you guys know that on Tuesday we have, kind of a play on words here because it's a leap year. Leap into bargain coin auctions. We do it every Tuesday night. We have some pretty big things that you don't normally see on a bargain show. That's a pop-up. February 27th, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You guys know those times pretty well to this point. And again, if you're looking to score some coins for an affordable value, and coins that are quite scarce, stuff that you don't traditionally see out there, this might be a good time to kind of pop on in. If you're brand new, by the way, I have my referral link down below, and I'll probably end up putting the show link in there as well for those of you that are already a part of Whatnot. You can go ahead and bookmark that show for this Tuesday. And then we're going to have some really nice, very generous giveaways as well. So I hope to see you guys there. If not, just come by, hang out, chit chat, things like that. Would love to see you there. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. And of course, we got hit out with a bang here. We got this Washington quarter that's actually in really nice condition. We've seen a number of these in the past. And although there's no readable date, we could kind of guesstimate, about what time frame these are. I'm going to say late 70s, just because of the absence of a mint mark. We're talking about a Philadelphia minted coin here, folks. That area where the date normally is actually a weak spot on the die. So they tend to break off the die, thereby creating an empty cavity in the die to produce these tremendous cut die breaks. Now, also keep in mind that on the reverse, in that same spot where the cut is on the obverse, you're going to have a considerable amount of weakness because there's not a full strike there as the metal flow goes into the area of least resistance, and that's that empty cavity in the die. So this particular one right here, another great sale, and they all seem to follow around this kind of price value, $108.99 with 7 bids. We do have a couple more cuds here, although these are quite common. These are all over the place, and because of that, the prices, tend to reflect the amount of supply that currently exists out in the marketplace. So we have a pair of statehood quarters. We have a 2005 Philadelphia, West Virginia quarter, and we have a 2006 Philadelphia, Colorado state quarter. So the cuds you're going to see on here, there's one right here at about 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock rather, on the West Virginia. Nice sized piece of the die had fallen off. A little bit smaller on the Colorado at 9 o'clock. And as long as you can see this channel, again, this is another kind of like weak area on the die that's prone to fracture as coins are being produced. And that's why things like this exist on even much newer coins. So something to do, keep in mind. And we're not limited to just West Virginia and Colorado. There's a number of different designs where that kind of tends to be the case. You can find some pretty nice cut die breaks on a lot of different dates and states. So this pairing right here sold for $15.87. Some of you probably think, well, that's kind of cheap. Well, again, it has everything to do with the supply that's out there. These are, again, quite common. You could go through a few rolls of quarters and probably end up finding one of these, especially if you're on the East Coast. They just seem to grow on trees out there. The next coin that we have here will stump a few folks. They'll look at the obverse or the front of the coin and automatically assume, that thing is struck off center. It appears off center. But when you look at the reverse, it's got a nice kind of centered strike right there. So what gives? If it's off center on the front, centered on the reverse, that means a misaligned dice issue. So that obverse die had a little shake or shimmy to it. Again, just due to wear and tear, components of the mid presses, they're not immune to wear and tear either. A screw becomes loose, a die and its seating hardware becomes loose, things like that. And because of that, there's a little bit of a play here. So when the coins are struck, the die will kind of shake or shimmy to the side a little bit, thereby creating a misaligned die strike. So this one right here is sold for $8.14 with 7 bids. Keep in mind, this is a very minor anomaly. The more crazier misaligned type of strikes tend to command a lot more money as some of the devices are cut off on the edge. The next one that we have here, our first lot or first peek at 2024 coinage. Now, this particular seller we've highlighted before because he promotes rolls for veterans, so collecting and kind of, driving this ecosystem to help veterans. Pretty cool. I like this whole deal here. So the seller had a P&D roll of 2024 Lincoln Shield cents. These are the brand new ones. And the pair ended up selling for $10.01 for 5 total bids. That's $5 per roll, but keep in mind, he didn't charge for shipping. Shipping's on him. So there's not a whole lot of money to be made just by selling these in P&D kind of format. taking nothing away from the mission at hand here. But if we're looking to make more money off of these, there's another listing coming up that'll help drive home a point that I think you guys need to follow for these brand new rolls. So the next coin that we have here, nothing too dramatic. It's just a very well-worn 1940D Lincoln wheat cent. This one has a nice retained lamination piece on the reverse, as you can see there on the right side. It even has a little bit of cottony fibers. Maybe it was sitting in someone's pocket and just drag out a little bit of those fibers. But when we look at it from this point of view, you can see that lifted up lamination piece. And I'll tell you guys this, do not attempt to peel that away. That would be considered damage at that point. Just keep it on the coin. It's going to be a lot better. Now, laminations aren't the most expensive errors out there. However, this particular coin right here, just pretty neat, for what it is. So this one here sold for $7.50. That's with 10 bids. Again, laminations are pretty common in today's coinage. We have a 1964D, the last year of the 90% silver revolution. And this one has a little bit of a sheet clip right there at 10 o'clock. Even has just a little bit of Blakesley effect. It's easier seen on the reverse there, right above RICA in America. All right, so that's a little bit of a flattened edge that is across a clip. That's pretty standard, as the clip does exist on the planchet before the coin is even struck. So when the coin is struck, there's a little bit of a tilt to the coin that tends to flatten out that opposite edge. So this one right here sold for $33.45. The coin's in really nice shape. It's a silver. Those are a couple of things that kind of play into the valuation of these. If it was a current generation clad quarter, you're probably talking about a $5 to $10 coin at that pace. And one of the big ones here, 2021 Lincoln Shield Cent. We all remember this coin. It's got a pretty phenomenal K3 to K7 die crack with some corresponding die breaks in there. Such a really nice coin. Again, these do exist out there. People are still finding them. And I've been talking more about them here recently. So this one ended up selling for $162.50, and that's with 20 bids. So pretty nice sale. This one was bid up organically. And another type of error that we don't see too often, especially on older obsolete type coinage. We have a 1961 Franklin half dollar. This one is produced in Philadelphia. And you can kind of see that anomaly there on the obverse or front of the coin. That is indeed a strike through. So there was a long something or another on the die, whether it was a long stretch of, grease and debris, or perhaps it was a string or a bristle to something, like a brush, and all that stuff is caked in. Grease as well. There's grease to be found all over the mid presses. So this is quite dramatic, visually stunning to the eyes, to see something like this. And it kind of leaves your imagination also kind of wandering as to, how does something like this happen? Some would speculate like, oh, that's damage, like something hit it. But that would be a pretty substantial hit to the point where it would bend the coin, So, and we're just not seeing that here. Looking at the reverse, it's perfectly struck. You don't see any of the punch through of what could be a well-placed hit. You would see some of that distortion in the metal on the reverse. So this particular coin, very nice sale here. $78 with 16 bids. I can imagine something like this could be found in scrap 90% silver if you're lucky enough to find one. And I know people that find these all the time. You have a little bit of a gem on your hand. We also have this 1913 Buffalo nickel. All right. To the untrained eye, you would think this is just a regular, really cool Type 1 reverse Buffalo nickel that shows our Buffalo friend on a raised mound. But guess what's missing? First few letters of the word 5 and 5 cents, which indicates a strike through or clogged die issue. So the actual area on the dies probably had some impacted grease and debris that this didn't dislodge. So when it strikes up the coins, it's not going to bring up all of the devices, as you can see here. So this one right here sold for $31.50, and that's with 3 bids. Not too bad there. And let's not forget that the good old Wilma Mankiller retained cud errors are still very much out there in circulation. These are all 2022, and you got to look at the Philadelphia minted coins. This one can be found with the double-sided retained cud or just the obverse, which is the one that we have here. This is the, I'm not going to say least desirable, but it's the one that's worth the least because it's, you know, if it wasn't for the reversed retained cud, which is incredible, this one would be the big one. So this one ended up selling for $101.87. Yeah, these have come down here in the recent past, but let's keep in mind here, a C note for something that can be found in circulation, I would take that all day long. So that's still good money. And, of course, one of the big coins of the week, someone just had to find another one of these misplaced mint-mark 1975D Jefferson nickels. My goodness. Now that the word's out, and the word's been out for a while, but I think there's just been a lot more promoting of this coin because there's been a few pretty major sales on, like, Great Collections and Heritage Auctions and things like that. That it's really kind of driven home this message. Look for these. That's what it is. So when we look at this, you can see a very high placed mint mark. There's actually some that are a little bit higher than this, but this one, I guess, still qualifies for a misplaced mint mark. But you can see the mint mark there. The Denver mint mark is nestled between the 5 and that little bow tie of Jefferson's ponytail. And that's a lot higher than where these are supposed to fall. So this one right here, folks, how about $504.35 on the sale for this one? Man, I'm telling you, the fever pitch for this coin, whether it's deserved or not, is incredibly high at this moment. So if you're not a Jefferson roll hunter or anything, I would say it probably doesn't hurt to at least indulge, in trying to find one of these, as this is a pretty big valued coin today. So I have to throw out a little bit of, not everything is like roses and unicorns on the PCMR, but I do have to throw out kind of like a PSA of sorts. Now, this looks like, at first glance, a pretty substantial error. All right, this was a 1928D $2 legal tender note, which has red ink on there. Hey, as you can tell on this one, if you look on the left side of the note, it's missing the serial number and the district seal, okay, which are pretty big and bright and red and bold on the note. So you would think, looking at this, like, oh, well, there must have been something catastrophic happen at the BEP where, it didn't print out the left side, red overprint. But when you look at closer to this area here, where it says this note is legal tender, and then this area where normally the serial numbers are, you're going to notice a very light shade of pink. Right? Like, it seems like that there should have been serial numbers there. Chemically, that can be altered, so it's something that, I hope to God whoever bought this feels like that it's a grade A error, and that, it should be treated as such. But I can't help but notice what looks to be very light remnants of what should be a serial number and red district seal there. We look at the back of the note. I mean, if it was going to be chemically altered, you'd think it would react to the reverse a little bit. And it kind of does. When you look here at where it says 2 and this little area, you can see kind of like a very light lightning area of this green intaglio print. So yeah, that's something definitely that could be a little bit concerning. So, just be aware, these notes can be incredibly expensive. Like, for example, this one ended up selling for $274. So if you grab this note and you still notice some embossing where the serial number and seal should be, but notice some kind of like maybe what could be some shenanigans going on here. Don't be afraid to send it back. Just saying. But just know that things do exist that are like this, where they're doctored and played around with to make them something that they're not. But just want to let you guys know that this is a kind of a common practice. And not saying that this note is 100% doctored. I have my doubts, obviously, but I would say heed caution. The next one that we have here, a 1993 P. Roosevelt dime, big, huge Mama Broadstruck. Pretty nice. I mean, it's very well centered. It's even paired up with a regular dime. You just notice how much bigger it is. It's probably about the size of a nickel, so it's beat out the size of a cent. And it's all the way up to nickel status here. So this one ended up selling for $36.45. Just incredible, beautiful piece. And even the minor drummer boy errors are still very desired. This one right here, slightly broadstruck a little bit. I mean, again, it's nothing too crazy. Like, I wouldn't necessarily write home to mother about this one. But you can tell that it is struck out of collar, and it's a bicentennial quarter, And seeing as how we are 2 years away for the semi-quincentennial release for the 250th anniversary, there's been more attention paid to this coin just in the last 12 to 18 months than probably what it deserves. But it is one of the favorite circulating commemoratives still out there today. So this one sold for $37.22 with 3 bids. Again, it's quite minor, but still a pretty nice price tag. Now, here's a much better misaligned die strike on the 1967 Lincoln Memorial Set. So again, you have a centered strike on the reverse. The front is off center, but you can see a lot of the motto "In God We Trust" is cut off on there. This one sold for $33.95. Again, the more crazy the misalignment is, the more these are worth. And we also have this 1988 $1 bill with a gutter fold there on the right side. Now, it does have a condition issue with some sort of stainings. I don't know if it's grease or something. But there was a wrinkle in the subject sheet, and it was printed over, thereby creating the gutter that you see here. And it doesn't show on the reverse because the reverse was printed when the wrinkle was stretched out. So do keep that in mind. So this one right here ended up selling for $53.38, and that's with 39 bids. These are kind of like the low to medium interest type of errors. The more gutters, of course, on a note, the more that they're worth. Just a really radical one here. This one's going to go into that date set of off-center struck Washington quarters, and this is probably the best one. 1982 is a date. We don't know if it's a P or a D, of course. That's probably not too crazy important. It's off-center by about 70%. I mean, that's pretty dramatic there. Very nice condition, too. This one sold for $67.55, and that's with 18 bids on that one. And a very nice one here. This is a 1918P Lincoln wheat set. This is a true woody. They call it an improper alloy mix. Back in the day, prior to 1960-ish, date-wise, the mint, used to add a little bit of tin or zinc to their copper compositions for Lincoln cents. And they tend to not mix very well. So when they're finally rolled out, the planchets are punched, and then they're put through the upsetting mill and all that great stuff, and then prepped for striking. They're going to look like this. This one is a phenomenal double-sided woody. It's as true blue as you can get. It is incredibly attractive. I like this one. This one sold for $34, which is a really good amount of money. For one of the more common dates of woodies. All right, so that's a very strong sales price on this one. There is a new book by Sean Tew, that's T-E-W, called The Rabbit Hole of Improper Alloy Mixes. So if you guys don't have it yet, it's available on Amazon. One I would highly encourage you guys to pick up if you're into woody, wood grain type of Lincoln cents. The next one that we have here, again, this is another gutter fold in nearly the same spot as the other one, although it's not as wide. It's on the right side, 1981, although this one doesn't have a big old grease stain on it. When we look at the reverse, you can still see the gutter because the wrinkle never got stretched out during any part of the printing process. This one a lot thinner, though. So this one here sold for $50.09, and that's with 22 bids. Pretty close to the sale of the other note we just looked at. And we have just like back-to-back bangers of notes here. I think we got like 2 or 3. Here's a 1990 $20 bill. Slightly off-center here. Nothing too crazy. But, you know, this is what we would consider and what the BEP would consider to be within tolerances, right? They would just cut these and then send them out the way that they are. But when we're comparing the front to the back, yeah, it doesn't match at all. So the back of the sheet was grossly misaligned. All right, the registration was all off from the front to the back of the sheet. It's so crazy, and you can even see the top sliver of the next note under this one. You can see that sliver there on the bottom right corner. So because of that, this one right here ended up selling for $124.04 with 18 bids. That is the market for these. They're just really pricey and very popular today. And another big one today is the wet ink transfer. So we have a back to front partial. It's about 75-80% partial back to front transfer. Again, you're going to notice that transfer is going to be mirrored. All right, so it has to be that. If it's not mirrored, it's not real. And this one has very vivid inks. I kind of like it. It's very neat. So when we look at the back of the note, it's normal. All right, nothing really to draw your attention here. So this one right here sold for $199.95 because of that. That darker green ink on the front, you know, that makes this one worth a little bit more. So pretty nice one. And yeah, this is a crazy Lincoln set. 1975 is double struck. So you can't see the date on the first initial strike, but the second strike that's off center, well, they kind of atoned for it, although it's upside down. So the secondary strike is about 70% off center there. This one sold for $86 with 14 bids. Here's a 1974D dual error. This one is struck off center, and it's got a pretty deep clip. This one, I mean, because it's on a dime, you don't see it too often. It's sold for $82 with 16 bids. And here's a 1956D Lincoln wheat cent with a detached lamination. This one I'm going to say that this one was probably helped along. And again, I don't recommend peeling laminations, you know, especially trying to push and promote a listing a little bit better because it looks more dramatic. So this one right here sold for $25.45. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty neat, but, you know, it's some people look at it and consider it to be damage at that point. And, yeah, we got some penny rolls here. What do we have? Well, this is a listing for 2024 Philadelphia penny rolls. It's a lot of 8, but this is the stock photo that they used on here. So when you sell the pennies in quantity and you do a buy and now listing, your results are going to be a lot better. You're going to make more money. So off of $4 face value of 2024 P Lincoln cents, it sold for $45.99. And there were a number of them that did sell at that price level. So if you got these and you're trying to think of an innovative way to sell them where you can make more money, try and group them in batches of like 6 to 8 rolls, and you should do a lot better doing it that way. A few more listings left here. Here's a 1982 large date Denver copper Lincoln set. Now, at first glance, you're like, oh, that's a pretty cool looking woody because it's got the little lines and striations on there. But woodies don't exist after 1960 because they stopped using tin or zinc in the composition. So what we have here and what's been determined is that this is a result of dirty rollers. The rollers that flatten out the strips to punch the planchets. Yeah, that's what this is. So, but they're still being treated as something of a visual kind of like anomaly that people love. People are using the term woody incorrectly for these. But if that's the only way that they'll sell, they'll keep using that. And you know, these are inexpensive and they should be treated like that because they're quite common. This one sold for $6. I'd say that's innocent enough, you know, to sell for that kind of money. But just realize this is not an improper alloy mix as what we've seen in much earlier dates. And the final coin, ooh, man, I like big cuds and I cannot lie, right? Have you heard that expression before? Maybe, you know, in a different capacity. This is a huge cud on this 1977 Lincoln Memorial Set. This thing is really cool. So you can see just how big and blossoming that cut is there. I'm sure that die was a pretty substantial piece that had fallen out. It was probably a very deep one too. You can see the weakness on the reverse right over the word cent. All right, so it's very important to realize that is supposed to happen. But this one right here, folks, $84.25 with 3 bids. Again, cuds are the kings of the error worlds, based off of their wildly consistent pricing. These things sell for as little as like $5-10, like those state quarters, to as high as many multiple hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on the coin that you have. So, yeah, pretty crazy. If you find one of these, congrats. That's a huge find and a huge amount of money too. Well, that's it. That's going to go ahead and wrap it up here for the weekend edition. The video is always for entertainment purposes only. It's not financial advice, so keep that in mind. Please do grade and collect responsibly as always. But that's it. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the video, the content. Come check me out on Whatnot. Always love the extra support. That's it. I'm out of here. You guys keep on collecting, and I wish you guys the best. Have a great weekend.